Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Frontline Stream from L to L. I am your host this week, Chris. With me, I have manufacturing experts Mohsin, Saeed, and Eric Whitley. I'm sure you've seen them, heard them, enjoyed them on the podcast before. But we brought them back this week to do a little something special. Now, I listen to a lot of these like Reddit deep dive podcasts on everything from like cars to relationship advice, things like that. It's a really hot format right now. And it turns out that there's actually like a huge manufacturing group on Reddit out there. So I thought that we would try something similar. These subreddits, today we're pulling from our manufacturing and our lean manufacturing. And there are tons of people out there who are working on the front line, who are leading teams on the shop floor, who are busting their hump in operations day in, day out. And they're here sharing stories, asking questions. There's a lot of venting actually that I saw going on here. So I thought I would invite these two who have a ton of experience in manufacturing and that we would dive through some of these Reddit threads that I found interesting. I don't know if you guys want to say hi, maybe give a 5 second introduction to who you are and what you had for breakfast.
Go ahead, Mo.
I just walk in Eric's footsteps wherever he goes. He goes somewhere, takes me along. I get to do a couple of things. But yeah, I'm one of the manufacturing solutions here at L2L. Spent 12 years at HP, 5 years at my own RV company, and just have lived, breathed, and talked manufacturing for a large part of my life. So excited to keep doing it.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah, Eric Whitley, Manufacturing Solutions here at L2L as well. Been here since Hector was a pup, you know what I mean? So uh, been around manufacturing for dang near all of my career. Ever since I've been married, and today's my anniversary, been married 36 years, so that'll tell you how long
Wow.
I've been in manufacturing. So
Congratulations, Eric.
Yeah, no,
That's
it's
awesome.
good. She's put up with me for that long. So, anyways, but yeah, glad to be here. We're really surprised to hear that there was complaining on Reddit. Like, I didn't know that was a
I
place
know,
people
right?
went to go complain. Yeah,
It's a shocker.
yeah, right.
It's not
Especially
only
in
where you
manufacturing.
find, reviews of the next pair of shoes that you buy. Apparently,
Right.
people also have opinions. Um,
Really? Yeah. That's unusual. That's unusual.
So I'm hoping we can deep dive into some of those. We're
Yeah.
gonna read through these stories. I'm gonna get your take on it, and then we're also gonna take a look at some of the comments that people leave. So without further ado, here's what I'm calling L2L on Reddit. So this first one, this is from the Lean Manufacturing subreddit, and it's titled "Getting Team Handoffs Right." This is already a hot topic. This person says, one of my biggest recurring headaches is information getting garbled or missed between shifts, or when work passes from my team to another department, like quality or maintenance. Details get dropped, context is lost, and then we're dealing with errors or delays. What are the most common lost in translation moments you see in your operations, and what do you think is the root cause? Are there any simple things that you've found that actually help make these handoffs smoother?
Oof. Um,
It's a big question.
no, it's a great question because I think all of us that have been on a floor have experienced it to some extent. And it comes often from having information in a lot of different places, and B, not an easy way to compile it and share it with everybody. So back at HP, where I started my career, we have a machine go down, maintenance comes and fixes it, but now they need to let a process tech to come in and requalify it before they release it to production. If that happens at the end of the shift, Lord knows what's going to happen. It might be 4 hours before somebody gets to it because somebody sees it. It's going to be down. That note got passed to somebody who didn't pass it to the next person who didn't write it on anything. And it happened probably weekly a couple times. And
Wow.
we tried everything. We tried whiteboards. We tried, email threads. We tried Teams notes, everything we tried. and we just couldn't get a grasp on how to make it sufficient. And I know, Eric, you probably felt the same thing where, oh no, we told him, and then we told him, and then we told him, and it's kind of happened at least a half dozen times in your career too.
Yeah. Yeah. We had an instance once. I had a manufacturing line where we were running a couple of shifts, a couple 10-hour shifts. And so you only had 4 hours between shifts, right? I remember when I was a manufacturing manager, I actually stayed like the entire second shift because this really complicated welder was down. So I stayed there the whole time to get it, wait for the maintenance guys to get it up and running, Finally, the maintenance guy said, dude, I got this. You can go home. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning. I went home, came back in at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning, and there the machine sat. And this is not a machine that you just press the on button. You have to start it up. And so we had to sit there and wait until we had somebody to come in to say that I didn't know whether they had fixed it or whether they didn't fix it. You didn't want to try to start it up if they didn't fix it. So we just sat there and waited until somebody said, yeah, we fixed it. And then we could start it up and go, But one of the anecdotes that I've always used in careers, kind of a lean anecdote, is that you should always make sure that you're managing the abnormal and not managing the normal. In other words, the normal things that should happen, good handoffs, good communication, should happen like clockwork. Like there should be a process in place to where you don't have to manage that. If you're having to manage that, then what that is, that's a clear indication that you don't have a process in place to make that happen. Something that's abnormal, then you can identify it, right? But so if you're having trouble, what that's saying is that you don't have a process for turnover. It's not that the turnover is bad. It's not that the communication is bad. It's the fact that you don't have a way to do it. And so you have to come up with a way to do it and then instill that into the process, because people will follow a pattern if you set the pattern, but if there's no pattern, you're going to get random interaction and random abnormalities that happen during the process. So anyways.
Yeah, that's exactly. You got to have a flow. Like at the end of the shift, this is the information we're passing down, and this is where we're putting all of it. So every time I need to find information, I'm going to this one spot. If you can go to one spot to get it, we can get through a lot of these problems. But if most places don't have that one spot, and that's where these struggles start, like this post.
Yeah, and I mean, like with us, you when we say you don't have that one spot, if there's a problem, how do you capture that problem when it happens?
Yeah.
Right. We capture it in dispatch so that you see it actually when it actually happens. So then that becomes the process, because people can immediately go to last shift dispatches and see what actually happens and what happened in order to get a good idea, right? We always go with the saying, if it's not in L2L, it didn't happen. And so we want to make sure that everybody puts everything in L2L so that it's captured, so that I can just come in, do a 24-hour history report and see everything that's happened on my line or the factory or whatever, So
I think it'd be interesting to dive into a couple of these comments here, because there are people recommending structures and tools for, hey, like what are some things that you can implement and do. And I was saying earlier that we come from the privileged position of working with like one of the best, most comprehensive tools for recording this stuff.
Definitely.
But the top comment here is that there's a number of tools people can use, and the one that they highlight is a shift handover checklist, which involves getting together with their team and deciding what are the 5 to 7 critical metrics that you need during a handover. Make that into 3 columns: day to afternoon, afternoon to mid, and mid to day. And then iterate and adjust on that. And he says, or she says, that they've done this 100 plus times with a 90% success rate. Do you guys have experience doing stuff with like a handover checklist, like something really simple like that?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Mo.
No, I was just gonna, for our places, we never had a formal checklist. And I worked a few different places, the 3D printing and silicone manufacturing. We never had a formal thing, but we always had a daily stand up where the same 3 to 4 questions would be asked. Hey, what went down? What came back up? Did you get your parts out? Why didn't you get your parts out? Right. So a few different, it could have been quality issues, safety, material, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But, why didn't you get it out? Covered all of that. Now, that was never really documented. So, like, for example, this checklist is a good place to start. Now you have it
Yeah.
documented. You can go back and look. Maybe I came in late.
Yeah.
Shift starts at 8. They do the handoff at 8:15. I'm here at 10 o'clock today. I missed all of it. So that checklist is a good start to that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think what you're talking about is that, one of the things that's happened over the last few years, 10 years, 10, 12 years is making sure there's leadership standard work or process layered audits where we're measuring the management of,
Yeah.
are we doing these things on a repeatable basis? Are you asking these questions? What gets measured gets done. So if I know that my boss is going to ask me this question tomorrow morning, then I'm going to make sure that I did it. And so that standard work from a leadership standpoint is also, and I think that's whatever this commenter is talking about. It's not necessarily how it's done, the technical side of, I got 3 columns and we do this and do that. It's is it repeatable?
Yeah.
Is it there every single day so that people are actually thinking about it during the day, that I'm going to answer these questions tomorrow morning, and make people accountable to answer those questions?
That's what I latched on to, is like you can tell that this is an old pro because of that iteration part of it.
Yeah.
They know that the first checklist and that first set of metrics that you crank out, that's not going to be the one, right? Like that's not going to be the final answer to the problem you're having, but it gives you that springboard, right? So that you can
Yeah,
start tweaking and measuring and you know
absolutely.
and getting done based on that measurement. I think I won't read through the whole thing. But number one from the second most upvoted comment here, he gives a list of like 4 action items of things you can do, and their first suggestion is minimize the need for handoffs entirely. And what like is that sound advice?
Well, I think that is a little bit of what we've been talking about is, do you
Yeah.
have systems and processes
Mm,
to where you don't have to say, oh, this is something I have to tell somebody.
yeah,
You have systems and processes where if there's something that somebody needs to know, it's being captured automatically,
it's just
and
there.
it's there, right? It's
Yeah,
part of, it's a normal process. It's not an abnormal thing.
yeah,
So people are capturing it during their normal workflow, and then people can go look at it during their normal workflow. It's not necessarily a don't communicate edict. I think
yeah,
it's just making the communication easier.
yeah, definitely. Good shift planning and standard work design means you should be able to design shift operations that can be started and completed in one go. That's how they follow up on that little comment. If
Yeah.
a build step is so complex that it requires handoffs, it should be looked at by, for example, the 6S team or someone, which I think is in the same vein as what you're saying. Is
Yeah.
if you're creating handoffs, maybe maybe you're taking that one step too far.
Right. Right.
Most you got
Yeah.
anything to add before we move on to story time?
No, it's. I think it's exactly right. Like, I think that first comment is an ideal end goal,
Yeah.
but it's a lot easier to say. You know what I mean? It's a lot easier to
Yeah.
say, actually implement, and to do. Even with solutions, right? Like, let's say you find a solution and you
Yeah.
can capture it all live, and you still have to use it properly. You have to still get everybody's buy-in. I could have the best X eh, basketball team forever, for example, right? You can get the best players together, and you're still not winning a championship because it's not all working together. So
No,
the solution is part of it, but you have to have the adoption and have to have everybody's buy-in. And I think that's one of the things I've seen a lot of the factories start to move toward more now than maybe the past 10 years is getting more adoption and getting people to believe in the stuff that they're trying to get them to do.
Yeah.
definitely. Well said. Cool. All right. I'm going to close that thread down. Solved. We fixed it forever. All right. Now we're gonna jump into the meat and potatoes here because there are, as I said, there are, a lot of simple questions and asks and things like that, but there are also people who have, some big stories here. And this thread is called How Lean Transitions Fail. And feel free to stop me when you hear something interesting because this one's a good 5 paragraphs. We're really going to get into it. So OP works at a company that began its lean transition 4 years ago. Despite initial skepticism about this statistic that's been flying around that 90% of companies fail in lean transitions, the OP witnessed firsthand why this statistic might actually be accurate. Have you guys heard this statistic? Do you think that's true? That 90% of companies fail in lean transitions?
I haven't heard the 90%, but I know it's hard. I know it's
Yeah,
very, very hard to start and finish a transition.
for sure. Okay. Okay. Because people sometimes exaggerate on the internet. I don't know. But it's been known to happen.
Yeah, it's hard to say 9 out of 10
Yeah,
companies are failing at this. That's a lot, right? Because
that's rough. Yeah.
they pay a lot too. Like if they're bringing in a consultant or if they're hiring somebody
Yeah.
and they're putting the teams and they're taking people off the floor, they're putting a lot of money into it. And I know there's failures because I've seen them,
Yeah.
but 90's high.
And he's rough. This person
And,
might have
and
just gotten burned.
yeah,
Right.
the other issue is what is the definition of failure? Because
Mm, yeah.
you can make a 15, 20, 30% improvement, and somebody may be looking at it going, you didn't get 70. And the fact of the matter is you're still moving the ball. And so you
Yeah.
didn't really fail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Changing
it's
goalposts
kind of,
kind of thing.
it
Yeah.
sounds like a worker scorned there a little bit too. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So type of deal. So, but yeah,
So the lead implementation originally showed substantial promise, they said. This poster, this person who's posting this, advanced from a temporary worker to a group leader, and the company started investing heavily in their training programs. Their shift leads, they learned essential lean skills. The organization started establishing a robust 5S audit program. And 3 department members dedicated 80% of their time to making these improvements, they said. A dedicated quote unquote moonshine lab, which I don't understand what that is, was created with weekly training sessions and management development programs. So, they're starting initiatives, they're putting in work. However, when sales started to decline, the company's true priorities became apparent. OP realized that the CEO, the leader of the company, had never actually been personally invested in these lean principles, or so they say, and viewed them as simply cost cutting mechanisms rather than a fundamental business philosophy. Financial pressures led to a 10% workforce reduction with immediate impact on these lean practices. So people started leaving left and right, and the lean started to fall apart. Leaders who previously split their time between production and improvement activities were reassigned to spend 100% of their time on the production lines. Group leaders, including the OP, assumed additional responsibilities like material handling. Weekly training became monthly, management training was eliminated, and improvement activities ceased. Is this starting to sound familiar?
Yeah.
um,
Again, I think it goes back to what you said, like somebody just getting burnt, right?
yeah, yeah,
At the end of the day, the objective of a factory is to make parts. Regardless
yeah,
of what part you're making, you got to make parts. And
yeah,
if you're not making parts, things are going to cut. Like in SaaS, right? When things happen, they start cutting different teams, right?
yeah,
Um, Oftentimes, like in companies, it starts with marketing, right? They're like, we're not making leads. We need a new marketing department. In the
yep,
factory, we're not getting our parts out. We got to find somebody to blame.
yeah,
And that happens. Now, what he's saying is not wrong. Lean does get cut a lot. I mean, Eric and I,
yeah,
we've talked to companies forever, right? The one resource that you see getting recycled through, like, oh, we got a new lean guy and he's coming in and wants new things, or we got a new this person and they want new X, Y, or Z. We do hear that a lot. Lean does get chopped and they do get moved around
yeah.
significantly, and they do get the short end of the stick.
yeah. Yeah, real quick. So Moonshine Lab is a
Uh-huh.
just a thought process of like real quick, inexpensive improvements.
Mm,
Like we're going to take this concept, we're going to fail fast, we're going to change fast and fail fast, right? So we call that kind of a moonshine lab, right? Kind of you kind of throw things together and kind of make some whiskey out of it or whatever you want, but that's kind of the thought process is that
Cool.
that's what a moonshine lab is. Anyways, but here's the deal. So let me give you a story. So
Yeah.
I've taught total productive maintenance forever, right? One of the things that you do in total productive maintenance is you create these autonomous maintenance checklists, right? It's a provisional standard. It's a checklist. Back in the day, the way you did that is that you listed all the things you wanted the operator to do. And then to go check, to clean an inspection list, all that stuff. But but in order to have them do that, you wanted them to literally check off stuff off of this piece of paper. So it took the TPM coordinator every day to print out new ones and walk around and collect the old ones. Okay. That gets old and it gets very wasteful. And
Yeah.
then if the TPM coordinator leaves, all of that dies. And so it's little threads like this that happen. We talked to this person posting talked about 5S audits, and the Moonshine Lab didn't, kind of fell away and all that stuff. As people move on, the person that's holding up this thought process leaves. And so the whole platform and base of an improvement process actually gets taken out from underneath it. Right. And so what looks like failure and is just a collapse of the structure
Yeah.
that kept this thing afloat with inside of a plant. And it takes massive, massive amounts of work, effort, and brain power to keep that going through personnel changes and through
Yeah.
change of business. It really is hard to do that. Only the very, very best of organizations in the world that have, and we have a couple of them in our portfolio of clients that have massive infrastructure, massive people they can dedicate people to doing nothing but keeping this infrastructure afloat with inside the plants, are successful year after year after
Yeah.
year after year. So
Well
it's
said.
pretty common, pretty common.
Yeah. I see I'm gonna interject because I'm scrolling through the comments because of course I am. I gotta dive in. This is definitely a person who had a bad experience, and I there is some good advice in the comments here. One of them I think reflects something that you touched on. Someone says, as per my understanding, your company is focused on reducing cost. So why don't you show the project that will give the biggest cost benefit to the company? Right? That's in line with what Mohsin said, is you're trying to make parts for as cheap as possible. Once the management sees that those benefits in terms of production and cost, you're gonna get more buy-in from it.
Right.
So part of it's just being strategic with which initiatives you pick, and like you said, maybe not buy enough too much at one time, because if you don't have that infrastructure, then it doesn't seem like it's gonna hold out for very long.
Yeah, it's similar to we talked about in the first post, right?
Yeah,
If there's a tool in place and you develop a tool that makes it, like Eric said, oh, tons of people, they're walking around, they're dropping stuff off, they're picking stuff up, and that guy's gone, that whole project is gone. So if you could develop a tool, maybe it's web based, you click a button, you submit your answers, it
yeah,
goes out. Now people could take actions on that, but you got to simplify it so there's not
Yeah.
a single point of failure, right? We have those in every part of our life. You don't need them where money is involved as well.
Right.
definitely.
Yeah. Agreed.
Here's
Totally
a
agree.
here's a bizarre comment. This is why we hang out in these places. This person says, lean is something you operate in, not something you operate. Fish live in water, but they also drink water. Lean is the water you live in. The company is the fish. And he says that's a poor analogy.
No, he was
But I
he was
think
doing great until he made the company the fish. He lost me there. Like everything was great, and then he's like, I don't know where you're going.
absolutely lost the thread. Oh, but I think he's what I think he's getting at is what we talked about in the first one, is like it, you can't put this in place as just as a band-aid or as something just to fix your problems. It has to be a system, has to be something that you live and breathe every single day. That's like baked into the culture, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
got to be a. day in, day out. Sorry, Eric. It's got to be a
Yeah,
day in, day
no,
out. All right,
no.
like
I
everything.
go ahead, Mo. I'm sorry. Keep going.
No, it's
Keep
fine.
going.
Yeah, it's like everything else we do, right? We wake up, we brush our teeth, we do
Yeah.
X, we do Y, we get our coffee, we carry on, right? It's got to be just like that. It's got to be baked into the day-to-day process. Otherwise, if you're trying to force stuff in, it's going to get lost. Like working out, it gets
Yeah.
lost. I've never been able to do it because I haven't baked it in.
Because you're not thinking. You're not thinking like a fish, Mohsin. You're not.
That's the problem. Well, the gym is the fish, right?
No, I think it's the baked in things that you're consuming that are the
Right.
problem. It's not the lack of
Oh,
working out, it's the baked in things that
Yeah.
eat more fish.
Potato.
pastry, pastry, whatever you want to
Right,
say.
exactly.
Yeah. No, what I was going to say is, luckily for me, I grew up in this kind of in the early days of lean, and actually worked with the guys who got information from people like Shigeo Shingo and Nakajima and all those guys. That's who I learned from those guys. And if you take a system like SMED, so single minute exchange of die, or even TPM, I talked about that earlier. Those weren't really, nobody sat down, Shigeo Shingo did not sit down and go, I'm going to invent a system called SMED. What he did is he started coming up with these concepts. Like if you do this, right, do internal versus external in a changeover. Okay, that's good, right? Improve the tooling so that it's easier to change, right? All of these are little steps that he made, and it was in the culture. And not
Yeah.
until somebody by the name of Norman Bodak came in and said, hey, I want to turn this into a book. What would you call this? Well, we would call it Single Minute Exchange of Die. And then he took it, put it in a book, made a training class out of it. Now everybody thinks this is a system. But
Yeah.
originally, this was just baked in stuff inside of the Toyota process that Shigeo Shingo used and implemented throughout the whole process. Same thing with TPM, same thing with all of that stuff. It all just was baked into the norm. They didn't call it SMED. They didn't. There wasn't a Toyota factory in the world in the 60s that said we're going to go implement total productive maintenance. It was just part of the way that they did business, and that's the way that we have to do it today.
Yeah.
It has to be so ingrained in what you do, that it is just the nature of things.
Yeah.
So.
Well said. All right. I was saving this one for last, but I can't wait. We're gonna play a game. All right. I'm gonna spring this on you. We're gonna play a little bit of a game. We're gonna take a little bit of a wager. I'm gonna read you the title of a post, and each of you is gonna tell me what you think this post is about. All right.
That's a bad idea with me and Mohsin on the line here. It's a
I
bad.
know, right?
What is the rating of this podcast, by the way? What is the rating of this podcast?
A firm PG.
A firm PG. A firm professional PG. Is that what you're saying? Yes.
I guarantee nobody under 18 is listening to our podcast. So
No,
we're
absolutely
right. Nobody
And
in
if
high
they
school
are,
pulling fun.
more power to them, right? All right.
Right.
We get a
We need to hire them.
we get a
We need to either hire them or bring
PG-13.
them in.
Yeah. I think you get one F-bomb, or whatever the ratings stipulate. All right. Here it is. There's an emoji in the title. So I'll have to act that out. This one, the title of this post is Manufacturing is Beautiful, but some people make you, and it's the head exploding emoji. All right, Mohsin, I'm gonna let you go first. What do you think this post is about?
So I have a lot of thoughts around this.
Yeah.
A lot of thoughts. I think it's about communication.
Okay.
And that's from personal experience. And I'll tell you a quick story. When I first started at HP, I was an operator in one of their lines, and we used to make whatever part. And the supervisors would call in every 2 hours. How many have you gotten out? And because we worked in a clean room, you'd have to gown up, right? So how many of you got out? Why are you behind? What's happening? And it was literally like every 2 hours. I'm having to get away from work, pick up the phone, and say blah blah blah. And at one time we were pretty far behind schedule, and it was just constant. It was like every 30 minutes they're calling. I gave up, I degowned, I went out there and I probably did all of the rated R stuff to my supervisor and manager. Like, if you just left us alone, we would be able to get this out. You're ruining my day, you're ruining my time, and you're just sitting here at your desk doing nothing. If you want to know how much we're getting out, it's that important to you, just come sit in the factory and we'll tell you and you'll see it.
Yeah.
And that's the part, right? It, like, the work is great. We're making products, we're doing really cool things, but something's happening that's out of my control that's bugging me. And there I went crazy. I went out there and I probably said things I shouldn't have said to my boss, right? Who, by the way, was one of my best friends. Like, I really like him. We get along. But I went out there and said
It
things to
was
him in front of
enough.
people yeah, I shouldn't have said. But it's that. It's just, I think it comes down to communication.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Now, Eric, it's your turn. What do you think this post is about? No cheating.
This is a maintenance guide about an operator. This is a maintenance guy. Well, we used to have people in the factory we called buttons, right? And it was just like, it was people who didn't know anything about the machine, and when the machine would go down, they'd just start pressing buttons, hoping that some combination of buttons that they press would get the machine back up. And so I think that this is a maintenance person or an engineer who's complaining about the lack of skills of operators on the shop floor. Right or wrong, I'm guessing that that's what this post is about.
All right. We're gonna get the big reveal here.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm gonna go with my version of it because I had to clean up the language a little bit. The story goes, I used to work as a production shift manager in plastic manufacturing. There was a really smart technician there who honestly could solve any problem with the machines. Eric, you're getting warmer. So when we finished our shift, we would all go home, except his phone would immediately start ringing. His friends who owned or operated machines in their own companies or wherever they were in a factory would start calling this guy after hours so that he could guide them on how to troubleshoot and fix problems. So essentially, this guy finishes his shift at a factory, and people he doesn't even work with are essentially troubleshooting machine repairs over the phone for this guy, apparently for free. And he's spending hours on the phone diagnosing and fixing stuff. And he gets so mad that he starts turning off his phone after hours. And it's not written like this, but I swear that it's this story is about the guy writing it. This is definitely something he's dealing with. So it's a maintenance guy who is fixing other people's maintenance issues after work. So it's not an operator. But have you guys ever heard of this? Has this is
Absolutely.
this a common thing?
There is a guy, and I won't name his name, and I
Thank
won't
you.
name the company, but there is a guy in Huntington, West Virginia, who knows more about fixing railroad locomotives than anybody in the world. And when he leaves work from fixing locomotives, people from around the world email him to try to get answers from him on how to get these electric locomotives back up and running. I've seen it
Wow.
firsthand. Like, his phone is constant. Matter of fact, he has his own chat room where people get in and chat with him about, how do you fix this? I got this problem on this EMD 50 Westinghouse locomotive, or whatever kind of locomotive there is, and here's my problem. And he'll type him back and tell him exactly how to fix it. I've seen it firsthand. It's exactly
Wow.
how it works. Yeah, yeah. He's famous for fixing choo-choo trains.
Poor guy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
a I'm a shade tree bike mechanic. That's my hobby. I fix bikes for fun. And I wish it was only my bikes, but I have people bring me stuff like once a month and they're like, "Hey man, can you can you repair this
Tune this
for me?"
up for
It's
me.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a curse. The first comment here is that he should charge commission, which is
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think highlights the problem, right? Is that he's
Yeah.
doing this without pay, right? I mean that's something we talk about a lot, right? Is maintenance and troubleshooting, right? It's how do you get that information to people without being like completely dependent on one person? And when we talk about it in an in-factory context, because this happens as often on the shop floor, actually more often on the shop floor than it does to this poor guy whose cell phone starts blowing up, right?
Well, I will tell you that this is, and I don't want to get too serious. I mean, this is kind of a fun topic, but this is kind of what I've honed in on, that we talk about the skills gap in
Hmm.
manufacturing, that there's a skills gap. Listen, the skills gap does not reside in the standard work. I can create standard work so I can teach people how to empty parts into the hopper, how to start the machine, how to run the machine, how to box the thing. All of that's fine. The
Yeah,
skills gap comes in the 20% of the unknown of how to troubleshoot it when things go wrong. That's where we lack the skill. The younger
yeah,
generation doesn't have a mechanical mindset to say, oh, I know that when I have this problem, this is likely the cause of it. So it's not it the skills gap does not reside in the 80% of standard work. It resides in the
yeah,
20% of abnormalities. That's where the skills gap in manufacturing resides. And so having the ability to troubleshoot, having the ability to understand basic mechanics, basic, uh, drive systems, electrical systems, lubrication, basic stuff like that is where the newer generation lacks skill right now.
definitely. Well
So,
said.
Uh,
yeah,
and I think it transfers over all industries, right?
yeah,
There's
truly,
and
truly,
I mean, in software, right? There's going to be one developer who's way better, or
way
there's going
better.
to be
Yep,
somebody who can like just read a line of code and be like, oh, well, line three, that first third space needs to be a double space. And you're like,
right,
I don't even know how you saw that.
Sure.
right,
But same
right.
thing, right? You come into manufacturing, there's techs that I remember we used to wait for Steve to get here because we like Steve's going to
Yes,
fix it in 30 minutes. Everybody else is going to be
Fortunately,
about, yeah, everybody else is about 3 hours. I would rather
yeah.
leave it down for an extra half hour till I get Steve
yeah.
than anything else. And
I'll tell
you're
you, I'll
caught
tell
to
Well,
you,
everything,
I'll
right?
tell you a great story. We had a machine that did final inspection on an automotive part. I won't say what it is, but automotive part, and it had to test the electrical. And so the machine actually came in and touched an electrical probe to this thing and did like a current check,
yeah,
and it was down. Like we could not get it to do its deal. I mean, I'm talking like 6 hours during the middle of the night. And when the day shift came in, here comes the dude. He comes walking out. He reaches into his pocket, pulls out a paper clip, opens up the paper clip, and touches the two probes. And by touching it, it reset the calibrated machine. And I mean, it was like 13 seconds. We were back up and running. But he knew to carry that paper clip in his pocket. And he is the only dude that knew that, right? And so, I mean, it's just crazy, crazy.
wow. And man, I wish that was, recorded somewhere, right? He
Right,
probably didn't
right,
want that.
exactly.
That's job security.
Exactly. Yeah, right. That's exactly right. Exactly right.
Mr.
Well,
Yeah.
Paperclip.
Yeah.
well, a lot of that, which we do get in the factory, is that the white knight, right? Like
Yes.
I can save the day. I know how to do this. I'm going to come
Yeah,
in and do it. And that's also part of the challenge where that's great that you know how to do all this stuff, but you're going to need a vacation and you're going to need time off and you're going to have to go somewhere and
yep,
eventually you're going to retire. So some of that knowledge does need to be transferred over to the rest of your team and the rest of the
yeah.
people.
Um,
If you're a superstar, right, there's going to be gaps. Like I can't teach everything because there's things that are just there, right? Some people have a higher technical aptitude than others. Some people have this and that, but the basics, right? Like some of those things, those white knights need to learn how to hand off a little bit.
yeah. A little less ego, a little bit more sharing of the knowledge. Yeah.
Little less Mighty Mouse.
Yeah,
Right.
a little bit.
Right. What did Mighty Mouse say? Chris, do you know what Mighty Mouse used to say?
No,
Here's your generational test.
that's
What
before
Mohsin,
my time.
what was Mighty Mouse's big saying? Here I come to save the day. Right? That was Mighty
Yeah,
Mouse,
that was
right?
it.
That's what Mighty
That was
Mouse
it.
used to say. Yeah. So
Man, they gave me a UFC fighter. When I Google Mighty Mouse, that shows you
Really?
how yeah, there's some UFC
Dude,
fighter whose nickname is
Mighty
Mighty
Mouse
Mouse.
cartoon.
Yeah, no, I see him here.
Should get a
Wow.
mouse that's doing this, right?
Oh, this looks great.
Yeah,
I'm gonna I'm definitely gonna splice an image over in post of you singing that song.
Right.
There's no turning back now, Eric. All right, let's do another quick one. The last one that we got is not a super long one. It's another question. This one also comes from r/manufacturing, and this person asks, who is responsible for corrective and preventative action? It's a quality question. If quality control personnel found a defect during manufacturing of a product, who should be the one to do the corrective action and preventative action? Is it the production department or the quality control/assurance department?
it's a loaded
Thank you,
question.
question.
That
That
guy
is a
left a
serious
lot,
load.
and he left a lot of little things out, right?
Right.
There's a
Yeah,
lot of variables in
definitely.
here that make a difference.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the first question is how did you capture it? Where did it get captured?
yeah,
And how did it capture it? And then, I mean, we can talk a little bit about us. The fact that if you captured it properly, it's always going to be there. It's not going to fade off into the distance, right? You capture it digitally in a system that allows you to track these things so that and then is it a one-off issue? Or is this happening more and more and more? And so then does it come to the top of as something that needs to be solved right now? Is it something that we want to spend our precious resources on in order to solve, or was it only a one-time issue? So we
yeah.
have to make those decisions as well, right? So yeah, that's a loaded question, like Mohsin said.
I know. That's why I asked it. I wanted to see the response because I think it's interesting that people are out here asking these kind of incredibly open-ended questions on Reddit, right? They're out here struggling. Clearly, there's clearly some issue. Either this person is a supervisor or an operator or someone responsible for something, right? Who is having some sort of disagreement or confusion somewhere down the line on who is responsible for fixing this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting to see these kind of questions and then all of the responses in the comments. I'll read you a couple of them because the people in the comments, of course, have the exact same reaction that you guys do. This is entirely dependent on the nature of the failure and internal company policy and politics, right? It's completely situation dependent and also dependent on the system by which y'all should have in place to deal with these kind of things. Another person says CAPA should be a team sport and that everybody is involved. Another person says all groups should be involved in the RCCA process. So I wanted to throw this one out there as just an example of the kind of things that people are struggling with on the factory floor.
the the challenge I think with that is like one guy's like everybody should be involved and we should do.
Yeah.
The resources are so constrained these days.
Yeah.
There's
Right?
no factory out there that we've been to where they're like, oh, we have people that assign to things. Like we don't have people. So saying
Right.
everybody needs to be involved is kind of a stretch. Like you're got to be in the fantasy land.
Is that
Um,
wishful thinking?
very much so. Very much so. I think there's like a variables, right?
Yeah.
Quality finds the problem, right? They're going to need maintenance to help or they're going to need production to
Yeah.
help the root cause, right? So whoever you need, you bring that in. And then from there, whatever your solution is, it could be, hey, at our monthly PM, we need to do this so this problem doesn't happen again. Or we need to talk to the material people to get a better raw incoming material. Or we need to talk to processing to say, hey, instead of running this for 30 minutes, run it for 45 and we won't have this problem. But at the end of that root cause analysis, then you assign it to the proper team and take
Yeah.
it. Quality is not that team. Quality is not the one that's going to be making production do it. They're going to say, this is what we need to do. This is how we're going to have to do it and all that. But then production and the process and the operations are the ones that are going to have to put it in place and make it run. So it's a team sport. That one person's right. It's a team sport, but we're not getting everybody in the room for
Yeah.
hours to solve every problem.
As ambiguous as that question is, I'm going to answer it with an equally ambiguous answer. What does the data tell you to do? Right? Does the data tell you that it's a material issue? Does the data tell you that it's a design problem? Does the data tell you that it was operator error? What does the data tell you to do? And then determine that and then go solve it from there. That's who will solve it. If it's an operator error, then it's a training issue. If it's a material
Yeah.
issue, then it's supplier quality. If it's, so the answer is, what does the data tell you to do?
Look at the information, right?
Yeah.
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 Someone else gets to that. If equipment is the problem, do this. If material is the
Uh,
problem, do this. If quality is
To me,
yeah,
this is an obvious person out on the shop floor who feels like they're the victim of, they constantly keep getting this
yeah.
defect and nobody's solving the problem. Solve this for me, you know.
Yeah.
There's a great
Which goes back to, at the end of the day, all of us in the factory, we want to do good. We want to make
Yeah.
good products. We want to
yeah,
have good stuff
yeah,
out.
yeah.
And if I'm trying to, and there's a problem and I can't get help, I'm going to Reddit. I'm going
Yeah.
straight to Reddit. I'm going to make a post. That's it.
A really vague post. Because
Very, very vague post.
they
Yes.
might be desperate, and
There's
and I'm
a
gonna yeah.
there's a great Kurt Russell Goldie Hawn movie called Overboard. I don't know if you've ever seen Overboard. There's a great line, and then the Goldie Hawn character's she's really rich, right? And she tells her butler, James, I've lost my earrings between 3rd and 10th Avenue. Find them, And so that's kind of how I see this. This person's like, somebody solve this. Not my problem, but somebody please solve this problem, So,
Oh, well, to put a nice
there you
bow
go.
on it,
Goldie
you
Hawn
gotta
reference.
look. Yeah, no, thank you for
Yeah.
that. As many Kurt
Sign,
Russell.
sign your bingo card now if you've had Goldie Hawn reference on today's podcast. Yes.
We'll try to work one into every podcast. That's the goal moving forward. Eric, get
That's
watching.
right.
Oh, fantastic. So to put a nice big bow on it, just have a system in place, right? I think that's the answer to every single one of these, right? It's
Right.
about developing processes. It's about developing systems, iterating, and getting the right tools to get the right information, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, that's all she wrote, actually. I have a bunch more threads, but I'm saving those for the next iteration of
Good.
this because this was fun. I'd like to do
Yeah,
this
this was good.
again. It's nice to get out of our operational bubble sometimes and figure out what the heck's going on some different shop floors because you guys don't get enough of that traveling around the country doing implementing. You
Right.
don't have enough manufacturing in your day-to-day
Yeah.
life.
What we want to do is talk a little more manufacturing every day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I'm going to go in and write some off-colored Reddit posts in the manufacturing thread so that we have them to talk about it. That'd be all right.
Exactly.
Maybe Chris
You
will
start
find them,
planting.
right? We hope he finds them.
Right.
I'll never know.
Yeah.
I'll
It's
go.
like we'll do it a Chris Reddit scavenger hunt. This is identify what Eric wrote.
If I see a Goldie Hawn reference in it, I'll know exactly who wrote
That's
it.
right. That's exactly. Yes.
All right.
Exactly.
Very cool. Well, thank you very much, both Mohsin and Eric. We really appreciated having you on this week. Our next podcast, I'm sure, will be much more serious and results focused.
Oh yeah.
But this this round, we wanted to do something a little bit more fun. We'll be doing another one of these in the near future. So once again, thanks both for coming on and contributing, and thank you to you guys out there for listening and enjoying the Manufacturing Stream podcast. I'm Chris, and until next time, see ya.
Thanks,
Thanks, man.
Take care.